So you're in love with Japan. Everything you see online, all the blogs you read, all the videos you watch, everything about it just makes you want to pack your bags as quick as possible and move to Japan. And you're thinking to yourself, it can't be that hard, right? Like, look at me, I'm a foreigner and I live in Japan. Not quite as easy as it may seem. So let's talk about how I came to live in Japan and what I needed to do to be able to be a resident here, essentially. Okay, so you've decided to move to Japan, and that is amazing. Japan is one of the best places in the world to live in, and I've enjoyed every moment that I've lived here, and I can't wait for the future because there's so much potential here in this country. So the first thing, I'm just going to go through and give you some, a list here of things that you need to sort out and work out before you come here. First things first, you need a visa. For Australians, if you want to just get over here and figure yourself out, working holiday visa. You can get up to 18 months with it. It does have to be renewed every 6 months though. So the first one they give you will be 6 months. Then once you're here in Japan, you renew that at the, what do we call it here in Japan? It's essentially like immigration office place thing. Anyways, you need to renew it every 6 months because it's kind of like a temporary working holiday visa, and at any point you could decide to go back. So they don't kind of like just give you 18 months straight off the bat, right? Anyways, so you need a visa. You need to sort that out. You need to work out what you're going to do work-wise in Japan. If I was to give you a little bit of advice, something super easy for English-speaking foreigners is English teaching. You can easily land a job in English teaching so well. It is a lot of work, but you do get at least minimum base wage and stuff. You do need to take into account though that your employer will probably, if they put you in full-time English teaching, will probably switch you over to a full-time work visa. And for that, you will need at least a university degree of some sort, or at least enough experience for the last 5 years in English teaching. So just keep that in mind. You can do it part-time. There's no problem with that on the working holiday visa. But if you're moving into like the permanent kind of living in Japan, working full-time status, that visa requires you to have either, I think it's 5 years experience in that trade that you're getting a job in, or a qualification from university in that, right? So just take that with, do some research on what jobs you want and how Japan, government, favors those and stuff like that. And definitely having a university, graduation degree or something like that really helps you a lot. So once you sort out your work, you need to know where you're gonna live. You need to know the language. If you don't have an amazing wife like I do that can help you with paperwork and stuff like that, you're gonna be screwed. And I'm trying to be as polite as I can with that, but I have no other way to describe that. Some of the paperwork here in Japan is next level. Japanese people are renowned worldwide for just having paperwork for anything and everything that doesn't need it. So, bit of advice for you, do some Japanese lessons, learn to read and write, try to really study the language and absorb as much as you can before you get here. I really recommend minimum 6 months of solid, study into it so that you just don't fall apart and go into crazy culture shock and freak out and move home because you hate it so much because you can't communicate with anyone. You don't know how to read anything and stuff like that. So take that into account. So what did I say? Language. The next thing is be prepared to be culture shocked. Now, culture shock, some people just think that means the culture is different, everyone's nicer and stuff, and I'm so not used to this in my country kind of thing. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just you've grown up in Australia or wherever you're from, right? I'm going to talk from my experience here. I've grown up in Australia. I know where everything is. I know the procedure and everything that I need to do. I know my language really, really well in Australia, and I know pretty much, I guess, everything whenever I need to do it. If I needed to buy a car, I knew the process of what I needed to do. If I needed to get a license or a permit for something, I knew what I needed to do or where I needed to go. I knew how to get there. I knew all the rules and the guidelines and what to and not to do, right? You don't know any of that here in Japan. And it shocks you when you finally realize that, oh gosh, what have I done? I'm in somewhere where I have no clue and no idea what I'm doing or how to do something. So be prepared to learn from zero all over again on just everything in life. And I'm trying not to be negative here with this because this has been a really interesting journey for me. I came here to Japan and I hadn't even considered that I would feel this way or that I would experience this. And this is something that I think everyone takes for granted and doesn't actually realize that, hey, where you've grown up is actually home kind of thing, because you know about everything and how to do everything all around you. And when you move to another country, that doesn't exist anymore. And that is what normally makes people freak out and want to move back home. So if you really have a dream to move here in Japan, stick with it. Be prepared and come with like an attitude of wanting to learn and grow. And I think that's really going to help you. For me personally, I love Japan so much. The culture here, just people, how nice they are, the car culture, and just everything here in Japan makes sense for who I am as a person. Electronics, cars, business, everything that I love as a hobby, as a person, is here in Japan, and either came from Japan or was founded in Japan or is very big here in Japan, right? And I guess like for me, like it doesn't matter how I feel. Like if I'm feeling down because I don't know how to do something, or I'm feeling upset or depressed or anything like that, right? That's not good, right? But for me, because of my passion for living here, that actually makes me want to learn more. So I find myself when I'm frustrated or upset that I can't read or write something or understand something, or when someone's speaking really, really fast and I have no clue what they're saying and it feels like they're getting frustrated at me and I feel silly because I don't know what they're saying, right? All of that actually just motivates me more to want to learn more Japanese. And in some cases, that's probably not normal for most people, but for me, I really think and believe that if you're really serious about wanting to live in a foreign country, that those things will motivate you to learn more about that country or the language in that country so that you can then live there really well, right? So anyways, it's a bit of a solid advice and things that I think people don't really think about when they think about moving to another country. So I really wanted to drop that bomb on you guys. And I don't want this to be negative whatsoever, guys. Like, I'm sure there are so many of you that are super passionate about wanting to live in this country. And I can't wait till you guys get here and we can go to car meets and just hang out if that's your thing. But I think I wanted to just tell you guys that, hey, it's not all like sunshine and happiness all the way. You know, you are going to have some difficulties. You're going to struggle in some instances, in some cases. But as long as you're motivating yourself to learn more and grow and be stretched, then you'll be totally fine. You're going to love it every single step of the way. And then in a few years, once you've actually gotten to, understand everything really, really well, you're going to love it even more. And there's always so much more to learn in Japan, which is why I love this place. Another thing I wanted to touch on was stuff like getting a bank account and driver's license and getting what's called... what's it called? Like your identification here in Japan. You need a special stamp. You can't just sign everything. So let's quickly touch on this. Getting your driver's license in Japan. Australians, for me, super, super simple. What I had to do was, before you leave Australia, I really recommend doing this. You need to have had your driver's license for at least a year, 6 months, I think. And you need to go into the Department of Transport and you need to fill out a form that gives I think it's a privacy release form actually, because Japanese government needs a printout from your police record showing when your license started, and it has to be that exact form. It can't be the receipt from when your license was first instated and given to you. They won't accept that. I know that because I tried that. And even though there's an official receipt that shows when my license was instated and given to me, they wouldn't accept it because they didn't know what that piece of paper was and they had no way of identifying it or proving it was real. So you need that police record that shows, your driver's history and stuff like that. So as long as you've had your driver's license in Australia for more than a year, they literally will just switch you over and give you a Japanese license. Really easy, just a bit of paperwork. They give you an eye test and that's it. You're driving, you're legal on the road. Personally, I think that's a little bit dangerous, because I found that even though it was very similar to how it is in Australia with, things like, driving on the left side of the road and on the right side of the car, and all the road rules are pretty much the same, so you don't know what all the stop signs and the road signs all mean, right? So once they give you your license, just go and Google all the different road signs in Japan and refresh yourself so that you know what to look for when you're driving, okay? And just also maybe Google some of the basic road rules, because they do some weird yellow line stuff here. which means like you're not allowed to turn left or turn right like when that's there. And just do some Googling and just refresh your, like, just, you know, make yourself aware of some of the special rules, what speed signs look like and stop signs, and no entry one-way signs and stuff like that. And also be wary that highways will all have tolls. You'll need to get what's called an ETC card, or you can just keep paying cash, that's fine, but it becomes a pain in the ass after a while. So to get an ETC card, that's essentially a special credit card. And for you to get a credit card, you need a bank account, right? And to get a bank account, it's a little bit hard. One of the easiest banks to get a bank account in Tokyo is MUFJ, which is a Mitsubishi bank. And they're really good. They look, you know, some banks don't want foreigners or gaijins in there at all, so they make it very difficult for you. Now, you do need to kind of have a job first before you can get a bank account here in Japan. So once you have been accepted and you've got a job, and you've got like a piece of paper saying where you're going to work and the address and all that kind of stuff, you can go with that with your documentation that shows where you live, because you register where you live and you get a special piece of paper from your like city hall office. You take that with your stamp, which is your identification stamp. You take that all with you into the bank, and that's pretty much everything you need to get your bank account sorted. They'll give you a card and everything. Some of the MUFJ will actually let you choose between a normal red one or a special Disney themed one, because everyone in Japan loves Disney, even guys. It's weird. Anyways, once you've got all of that sorted, you've got your bank account, you can also ask them to provide you with a credit card that accepts ETC. And then, you know, when you have a car or you're hiring a car and you've got the ETC slot, you can put your credit card in there. It'll automatically charge that when you go through the tolls. Awesome. To get your stamp, you pretty much, it's a little bit of a hassle, but you can go to these special places that make the stamp. It costs about $200, and I know it sucks and it's expensive, but they're normally carving it out of bone and stuff, so it is kind of a huge deal. And this is like your like seal that proves that you are who you are with any paperwork here in Japan, and you need this. So you kind of make it up. You can just make it your surname if you want. You can make it kanji, hiragana, whatever. You can make it whatever the frig you want, really. But at the end of the day, you have to prove that that is your seal to your town hall. Also, if you move to another like province, you got to do all of that paperwork again to prove that that stamp is actually your identity. So just let you know. So in the province that you are living in and you've got your thing made, you've got to go in and you've got to fill out all this paperwork that proves that this stamp is yours, your identity. And you fill out all that paperwork, and then essentially then the seal works. And it's, well, I mean, it'll always work because it's just a stamp, but that actually has power and means that it's actually you. So whenever you stamp like official paperwork and stuff, they can backtrack that to your town city hall and prove that it is actually you. So if that stamp's on anything, you're attached to that. Okay, so just remember that. I think that's pretty much it. Like, finding a place in Japan is fairly easy. You just go to real estate agents. You can stay at hotels for a few weeks and stuff like that. You can even online through like Gaijinpot, which is a really good forum of information for people who want to move to Japan. You can find house shares and stuff like that really easily. And there are also agencies that will even take you on board and sort you out moving to Japan and do pretty much all the paperwork and everything for you. But you've got to pay for that. Obviously, they need commission and they need to make money because that's their business. So you can go for that option if you want to spend that money. I think it would be easy, that's for sure, to just do that if you had the money. But, you know, everyone loves a challenge, and I think it's always good to try and do something yourself. With that being said, guys, I think I'm going to wrap up the video here. I'm pretty sure I've said everything that I want to say, and I really hope you liked this video. I know it was kind of like a bit of a roller coaster there, but yeah, I think it was just something I really wanted to get across to you guys. I hope you love this episode of Japan 101. There's going to be so many more episodes to come. And yeah, thanks heaps for watching. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Guys, tell me in the comment section literally what you thought of this video and other things you want to see in future Japan 101 videos, and I'll make that happen. I always try to reply to as many comments as I can. But with that, guys, I'll see you next time. Ja mata ne.